Karl-Anthony Towns had to be helped off the court after suffering a non-contact leg injury, and the concerning part to a lot of fans was that we saw Towns look backwards, almost like someone had kicked him in the back of his leg. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and if it's your first time here and you enjoy learning about the underlying anatomy and mechanisms of sports injuries, then please consider subscribing to support the channel and stay up to date with future videos. This was the play where Towns was injured, and as we can see, he looks backwards right away, almost like somebody kicked him in the back of the leg. And this is something that sports fans will recognize as a sign that we can sometimes see when people rupture their Achilles tendon. People will describe it like somebody kicked them in the back of the leg or hit the back of their ankle with a baseball bat. And so whenever we saw this and heard non-contact leg injury, definitely something concerning. This backboard camera is really the only good angle we have of the injury here, but we can see Cat steps backwards with his right leg, plants that foot to push off and explode down the court, and then right after he pushes off is when he holds up and looks backward like he felt something tear on the back of his leg. What I want you to pay attention to here are the positions of primarily his ankle and his knee as he pushes off. This angle between his lower leg and his foot is less than 90 degrees, so that means that his foot has been dorsiflexed or pulled upwards closer to the shin. The other thing is that his knee is extended, or his leg is in a straight position. So we have a push off with a dorsiflexed foot and an extended knee. A good thing here, really trying to zoom in, I really don't see any clear snap or any clear recoil of a tendon like we've certainly seen with other Achilles injuries. So that's the other thing to point out on the replay that certainly is reassuring. The next reassuring thing is that Towns was grabbing higher up by his knee. You can see here he's grabbing really up more in sort of the meat, the bulk of the calf muscle, rather than down at his ankle where the Achilles inserts. And finally, we've heard that the team has ruled him out with specifically a calf strain. I think we can be reassured here that this isn't an Achilles rupture because number one, the team has said it's a calf strain, and as we'll talk about, the test for an Achilles rupture is very, very reliable in the locker room. And also, all these factors I previously explained point more towards a calf muscle injury than an Achilles rupture. But that doesn't mean this is a mild thing. With our biodigital anatomy tool here, I've shown basically the entire lower leg. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna hide some of the muscles higher up in the thigh region, and then we're gonna focus just on the lower compartments, or the gastrocnemius and the soleus. The important thing to know about the gastrocnemius muscle, or the calf muscle, is that it's what we call biarticulate, meaning it spans two joints. Bi meaning two, articulate joints, so it's a biarticulate two joint spanning muscle. The hamstrings are another example of a biarticulate muscle. And these biarticulate muscles are more prone to strains because they cross two joints. They're more prone to excessive stretching, and that's the case with the gastrocnemius. From the side view, we can see how the origin of the medial and lateral gastrocnemius is actually up on the thigh bone. It's up here on the femur, high up by the knee joint, and then the insertion is all the way down across the ankle joint on the back of the heel. So spans those two joints, the ankle and the knee. So that means in that position, like we talked about here, with that extended knee and the ankle bent upwards, that's going to put sort of maximal baseline stretch on the Achilles and the calf muscle unit to make it more likely to be strained when there's a resultant push-off force. The biomechanics of how we test acutely for an Achilles rupture is pretty interesting. We actually do this thing called a Thompson test, where you squeeze on the muscle belly of the calf and you look to see if the foot points downward. If it points, that means that there's continuity. You can have pretty high confidence that the Achilles is intact, but if it doesn't move at all, that's a positive test, which suggests the Achilles is ruptured. It's literally this simple. You squeeze on the calf and you look and you see if the foot moves. This is normal. So that's a super easy thing to do in the locker room and right away have a good sense of the integrity of the Achilles. Also, they probably have an ultrasound machine at the Wizards arena to where they can actually scan and see if the tendon is intact. And so I think, again, we can have pretty high confidence and trust here in the initial report from the Timberwolves of a calf strain. But these can still be anywhere from just a week or two to multiple months of recovery, depending on the location of the injury. The most mild type of gastrocnemius strain or tear occurs in just the muscle belly itself. As you work your way down closer to where the muscle inserts into the origin of the tendon, an area called the aponeurosis, you start to have increasing levels of severity and more prolonged recovery time. Remember also that the soleus muscle sits deep to the gastrocnemius and sort of feeds into the Achilles tendon from the underside. So this whole interface, the more you get down into this area with involvement of this aponeurosis, of that portion of just the topmost area of the Achilles tendon, the more prolonged the recovery can be, like I said, up to 2 to 3 months sometimes. Ultrasound is actually a fantastic modality to evaluate this and get some good evidence on return to play times. I'll link a paper down below that's a fantastic resource for anybody who actually is in medicine and wants to learn more about how we classify these types of muscle strains on ultrasound and then how we can use that to predict recovery. Remember that when the gastroc is being loaded, the Achilles is also being loaded. So frankly, Towns is very fortunate here, and I think a calf strain is obviously the best outcome if anything was going to be injured in that whole chain from the gastroc muscle to the Achilles tendon. Again, I think there's enough evidence there and sort of confidence in the basic physical exams that we can have pretty high trust in the Timberwolves initial report of this just being a calf strain. If this turns out to be an Achilles rupture, it's going to be a pretty bad look, honestly, because that's something that you definitely should not miss right away based on how accurate our physical exam tests are. Recovery, again, can still be anywhere in that couple of weeks up to a few months, so that'll all depend on the final tests. That's it for the video, everybody. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.